Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to shift a little bit into writing expressions. So if I start with writing expressions from some keywords, we are going to go over those keywords in a minute. However, right now what I want us to do is I wanted to just go over a little bit of vocabulary before we get started. So we know what a variable is. That's something we talked a lot about. We said that a variable is any letter that we can use to stand for some number that we just don't know the value of. Okay, so in this case, my variable we can see is z, right? Z is just, it's a number, but we just don't know what that number is, so we're gonna put a letter there for now. Coefficient is the number that we are multiplying by the variable, right? So that number and the variable, when they're right next to each other, means that they're multiplying. So in this case, my coefficient is 3, okay? Now, if you're asked how many terms there are, terms of an expression are always separated by either addition or subtraction signs. So in this case, we can see we have an addition sign. So this together, the 3z, makes one term, plus my 2 makes the second term. Okay, so there are only 2 terms in this particular expression, right? Because you have one thing plus another thing, okay? So 2 terms, or it could be, again, subtraction. So now let's take a look at some keywords. There are a lot of things that we talked about together when we were, let me erase those, when we were in school. So this is actually from our Eureka textbook, and these are a lot of really great keywords. So if you want to pause your video and write these down so you have them, that's great. So a few things to talk about was we talked about anywhere it says a number, then we need to use a variable. And anywhere where it says the quantity of, that's telling us that we need to put it inside parentheses because we're trying to put those things together. Okay, so those are a couple extra things that I wanted to talk about. So when I have an example, 12 minus the product of 3 and a number. So I'm going to go through this step by step. So when I'm reading this, I say 12 minus. Okay, I know what minus means. Minus means I'm going to be subtracting, right? The product of, okay, well, I know that if I look at my list, product means that I'm going to multiply. So when it says the product of, okay, they're going to tell you the 2 things that you need to multiply. And where you see that word and is actually where your symbol is going to go. So it says the product of 3 and a number. Right here is where my multiplication symbol is really going to go. So I have 12 minus the product of, the 2 things we're multiplying are 3 and a number. I'm just going to use n for now because remember we said a number means a variable. But whenever I have that number and variable right next to each other, 3 times n, we know that really the best way to write this is 12 minus 3n, kind of just like we talked about a second ago. Okay, so now I'm going to move my little screen, and I would like you to try, I want you to try these 2 on your own. Go ahead and pause your video. And I'm going to go over them. Okay, so the sum of 8 and a number, right? So sum means we're going to add, okay? But remember, our symbol is going to go actually where we see the word and. So the sum of 8 and a number, right? So and is where my plus sign is going to go. Sum of 8 and a number. I don't know the number, so I'm just going to put x, okay? So it's that simple. The next one's a little bit trickier. The quotient of a number squared and 5 times a number. So this one's really tricky. Quotient means that we are really dividing. So you could write your division sign. So I know I'm dividing 2 different things, right? So the first part is a number squared. So I can use any letter. So I'm going to use b. Squared means that it has an exponent of 2, okay? That is something that we talked about was squared. If you look back at your keywords in the video, squared means an exponent of 2 and 5 times a number. So and, remember, is where our symbol goes. So on the other side of my division symbol, is 5 times a number. I could write the times symbol, or remember, I can just write them right next to each other. The other way you can write division is b squared divided by 5b. Remember, you can also write division as a fraction bar, and you are going to see that probably more frequently than the actual division symbol. Okay, if you have questions, feel free to comment below or send me a text.